And we are live. Welcome everybody to the first episode of the Martial Arts Mastery Podcast. I'm Grandmaster Zaambri of Cobourg, and our special guest for today is Grandmaster Zaambri from a suburb of Orlando, Florida. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so much for having me.
For sure. So, everybody's gonna have to excuse me. I have a little bit of a cold, so if I'm coughing out a little bit, please excuse me on that. But so the whole concept of this podcast is to get a chance to talk with various masters and grandmasters and high level martial artists from around the world and just share their story. And I thought of Grandmaster Zaambri was an excellent first guest because we have a long history since 2007 at the INKA US Open down in Orlando, Florida, hosted every year at the Disney Coronado Springs Resort. Um, but yeah, like Nick and I were just talking before we popped on here, and we first met in 2007.
Yes, 2007, a little while ago.
Yeah, so
17 years.
well, 17 years that we've been friends now. And what year did you start? What year did you start with ISA?
I did my first year, 2003 was my first competition.
So that's kind of interesting because 2003 would have been my first year of running the school here. So that's kind of interesting that you started competition when I actually started my professional teaching career. So, but I want to go way before then. So what I know your background a little bit, but what got you started in martial art?
I started martial arts in 1983 in Pai Lum Kung Fu, and then I moved to Taekwondo with Grandmaster YK Kim in 1984 and have stayed in Taekwondo ever since and have done a little Aikido, but I love Taekwondo the best for myself.
So this is interesting. So the year that you started martial art is the year that I was born. Kind of all these dates kind of match up. So, but kung fu. So again, it's kind of funny. 'Cause I started with Taekwondo, and I did branch out to learning various other styles, including um kung fu. But what for you? What was the distinction between switching from kung fu over to taekwondo? What was it that made you know, okay, for you, taekwondo was the better art for you?
Well, it was kind of funny. Our instructor bodyguarded for Van Halen, and he went on the Van Halen 1984 tour and never came back. So basically, we needed a place to go, and Pai Lum Kung Fu is not a very common style. So the
Hmm.
next closest place was 50 miles. Then it was out of state. So we wanted a martial art that was represented a lot, and YK Kim's Taekwondo had like 10 locations locally and nationwide. About at that time, about 80 to 90% of the schools taught Taekwondo. So I felt that we wouldn't be left in the same position without an instructor or a school. It would just simply be a transfer.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, because like I know I've had students transfer from other schools too. And it's so easy to transfer from one taekwondo to another taekwondo school just because we have a greater standard, right? There's no standard curriculum that you can find in most schools. Now most schools have their little variations and add-ons, but in general, it is pretty easy to transition from one school to another. And a lot of times, a lot of schools will honor your bells if it's relatively the same versus other style. It's kind of hard to do that. So this is again in this was in Orlando, Florida, or the suburb.
Yes, we're in Longwood, Florida, about 30 minutes out of downtown Orlando. It's a real nice area. It's about 90 degrees today, sunny and slightly windy. It's beautiful down here.
Where here it's like 1 degree Celsius, so not bad for almost April. Now, so So now we're talking like 1984. You started with YK Kim, who is was America National uh what's the management services, right? He's the one that
Well,
was that.
he he's changed the incarnation of his federation. He also does a lot on the business end. Amera National is his business
Yeah,
end.
yeah,
He was very successful in running and opening schools. He's produced a lot of really excellent competitors over the years.
yeah. And then I guess at one point I guess you ended up you were if I remember correctly you were working as an administrator or what were you
Yes.
not working for the magazine or something when we were
I
first.
used to I used to run the magazine in the art department for him. It was a trade magazine with about a 30,000 distribution list. It was a really enjoyable job, but about 3 or 4 years with him, I went back to the school system and continued back in education.
Yeah, we just got a first comment here. It's awesome. Yes, I remember you telling me that. I know I currently work with them a little bit myself, but yeah. So you're training with him. So when you started with Taekwondo, how long did it take you to achieve your first Taekwondo black belt?
My deputy belt probably took me about 3 years, and then I started to have a family, so my first degree was a year or two later. It
Mhm.
took probably 4 years to get to my first degree because I was going to college, working full time, had kids, and was training. So we were hardcore training 20 hours a week when I was young, but once you have kids, you have to slow down a little.
Yeah, no, that's exactly how our school is too. It takes about 3 to 4 years, depending on the student, to get your we call it probationary black, and then another additional year to earn your first degree, and then obviously then right go from there. So what year was that? Like roughly what year was the first degree?
First degree somewhere. I lost the certificate long ago. Somewhere between 1986, I'm sorry, 87 and 89.
You know, okay.
I had lost that certificate many, many years ago.
All right, so Where now in the early years of your Taekwondo career, were you competing? I know you're still an active ranking competitor, which we'll get into a little bit later. But were you like working? Were you competing with form, lessons, sparring?
No, I did very little competing very early on. I broke no more than one or two slabs at the most. What happened was in 2000 and one, I think I started working for Grandmaster Kim, and I was writing curriculum, and I was writing curriculum for about 120 after school programs. And I felt as a black belt, I should compete to show that I was not only a good administrator and a good resource, but I was also a proficient martial artist. And so I started competing in 2003. It'll be 21 years this year. But the big reason why I started competing is I really felt I wanted to be respected in the martial arts community as someone beyond someone who was just an educational expert.
That's true. Yeah, I do see the value of like being a competitor myself. That there's definitely a value in competing in whatever you do, martial arts, soccer, baseball, hockey, whatever it is, like there is value in like learning sportsmanship, going through the training process, the ups and downs, the wins, the losses, and what you learn from them, right? That's all extremely valuable. Even and it doesn't matter what level, right? Like we have like you and I both run school and we're both we have students that compete at world level, international level. We have students
Right.
that just do local competition, which is fine, right? I just feel as long as people are competing, that's something valuable. I know here at our school, it's actually a requirement for our black belt to actually compete in order to move up in rank. It's not so much whether they win or lose, but just go through that training process and have that willingness to compete against other people, and even for a lot of people, go through that discomfort of having to compete. Because some people don't like that, right? And that's really valuable. Okay, so now we're in 2003, what made you specifically decide that I want to compete in competitive board breaking and concrete breaking?
Well, a true story. I was sitting with my kids watching over Christmas vacation, watching ESPN2, and I saw Grandmaster Fred LaSala with his daughter on stage doing the beds and nails, and Stacy was probably 10 or 11 or 12 years old, his daughter. And I had two daughters around the same age, and I thought to myself, wow, I can do that too with my kids. And literally the next year, I was on stage breaking an ISKA. My first year did a pretty terrible job, but they were nice enough to have me back my second year, and it just got better.
That's also it's a very similar story to how I kind of got into that because I remember probably I bet you it's probably right around the same time. I hadn't bought the school yet, and probably around 2001, 2002, I was on. We have I know you guys have ESPN down there. And we have it was the sports channel or the sports network up here, TSN, and they were showing the ISK ranking. I remember seeing the two that I remember seeing which are friends of ours, is Chip Townsend and Larry Fields, which I hope to get on this podcast at some point too. But I remember seeing,
They're pretty amazing. They are
yeah,
absolutely amazing, both of them.
and it's funny how they're both from the same town, Abilene, Texas. So which
Yep,
makes them very fierce rivals on stage and in business. But which is a good thing. But yeah, I just remember seeing especially Larry Fields because that's literally my dad's name, right? Larry Field was LPF. So I just remember that very distinctively. And then, I remember like uh getting a hold of Larry Fields at some point through VHS cassette talking about a phone and he's like, yeah, you gotta compete or get into competitions in 2007 I hopped on a plane and hit down to Florida and I remember meeting you and I met your son Nick Jr. I
right.
remember very
Yes, sir.
distinctively I remember the very first probably my first memory of you guys is and which is one of the things that you're probably more famous for in your routine is your set of nails. Like
Yes,
almost
sir.
every
I still have several beds and nails. I'm still using them.
yes. And I've been lucky enough to use some of your set of nails as well. You've been so gracious to let me use them while down there. So 2003, you said you did a horrible job. 2004, they invited you back. Now, were you focusing just on creative, or were you doing some of the
I was
other like?
doing creative every year. 2004's creative got better, but what happened was is what I started to find out I was good at was sidekick. I got fourth in 2004, third 2005, second 2006, and one in 2007 my first belt. So I really worked very hard. They were very nice about it, but I tell you, when I first started, I was just have to be honest, I was awful.
Well, I think back then there wasn't really YouTube or anything to show us what we're doing, right? I think the competitors today are watching us from
Right.
from then and watch the progress. They're learning so much faster because they're learning from our mistakes.
Yep,
Like,
and I was doing a lot of crazy, dangerous things, which I wouldn't suggest to any breaker. For an example of one I would share, clay pots are incredibly dangerous, incredibly sharp, and don't have any value with the judges. Things like that, I was kind of learning on my own. I had some great guidance from Mike Reeves and Fred LaSala, but I did have been independent, so long that I didn't train with them. I would just get advice at competitions. So I learned a lot on my own and never, I would see stuff and then I would try something even crazier. And judges don't like crazy and dangerous. They like excellent execution, power, and uniqueness. So crazy and dangerous does not impress anybody.
that's true, yeah. No, like I know even though breaking is already highly dangerous, there's no need for us to make it more dangerous. And yeah, it's not like we're competing in a Jackass movie. We have to be taken as serious athletes. The level of conditioning that we have to do physically, but then also mentally, and some people may even say spiritually or with developing our chi. But yeah, like breaking, regardless of the division, is a legitimate extreme sport, right?
Right.
It takes all aspects of martial arts. So, I actually in 2000, yeah, I remember in 2007 watching the power kicking. I I started competing in 2008. I actually started doing the ISK power kicking, and by 2010, I was like, I was pretty sure I was going to win in 2010. And after a year, then they took the kicking out, and they made it three directional breaking because Metlinux won that, and then I ended up winning it in 2011. So I feel like it took me an extra year to get my first ISK world or my only ISK world. But yeah, like you and I are both known for our kicking prowess for sure. Back in the earlier days, we were both actually the stories I want to bring up right now. I'm gonna fast forward to 2014. I don't know if you remember this or not. 2014 was probably to me was one of the more exciting ISKA because if you remember, if anybody is watching it doesn't know this, so ISKA or breaking in general is a one. It's like one elimination, right? Like you compete once and whoever wins over. Like power concrete, whoever breaks most concrete wins one round. But in 2014, they had two rounds. If you remember that, where
Yes,
the
I do.
two people would go on to the second round, and that's where they filmed it. But
Yep.
yeah, that was the only year they did that, I believe. And
Two,
2014.
they did it for 2 years, 14
Okay,
and 15.
okay. So in 2014, then though, that to me that was the more exciting year than 2015 because 2014, um, I ended up going twice trying to compete for the world, and the one division was myself and Larry Fields for three directional, and the other division it was me, you, and Larry Fields for the power concrete kicking.
Larry and I tied, and you were in the lead, if I remember right.
Yep. So yeah, if you look at three directional to begin with, so I beat Larry in the first round by one board in three directional. Second round, he beat me by one because one of my boards didn't decide to break. And then
Right.
in the power concrete kicking, again I was in the lead. You and Larry both went. I think how it played out was, did Larry go first or did you go first?
I,
You remember?
I ended up beating Larry. I got second. I
Yeah,
don't
you beat
remember
Larry.
who
Yeah,
went, but I got second. You got third, and Larry got first. Unless you and I tied for second.
no, so well, in the first round, I won the first round, and then you and Larry were I can't
We
remember
tied.
who went first in the second round, but then I knew what I had to do. Like I knew the number, and I was I knew I could hit the number that I had to hit. But when I hit that stack, the first couple slabs exploded.
Right.
I ended up losing that one, so I ended up losing to Larry, and I ended up losing to you, and because you won that one for power kicking.
I,
So
I won. I won 15. Larry won 14.
okay, so maybe it was 2015 that that story played out.
Well, 2015. It was just Larry and I on stage.
Okay, so
I think,
2000,
I
yeah,
think
so
you
we're
got. I think you got
2014.
third.
Okay, so 2014, you would have got it. So Larry won the three directional, and then you won the power kicking. Yeah, because I ended up screwing up my stack, but it is what it is. But I didn't thought those were more exciting. Um, those were more exciting that format. So it showed like even in the second round, anybody could still win. It was different, but I still
It was
prefer.
cool. It was cool.
Yeah, I still prefer the one though. But so then I know I started competing in 2015 in ISK for creative, and then that.
Your creative is amazing. I love your creative.
Well, what really got me into creative is, and I told you this before, when you did creative at, I don't know if it was the first or maybe the second USDA Hall of Fame tournament. I can't remember which one it was. I remember you doing creative, and then I ended up doing creative the following year when you weren't there. But I've always said like you're like the gatekeeper of training, whether it's USDA or ISKA. Like if somebody's trying to win, they have to go through you.
Thank you. I love creative. There's so much talent in creative now. It's amazing watching you and some of the guys who are younger than us because you're getting towards the middle now. It's amazing some of the skills you guys have.
Yeah. So yeah, no, creative. I absolutely love creative. It's nice to actually
I,
be able to win one. I'd be like, I'm always getting like second, third, fourth, second, third. Like he's got one. But no, we got some comments coming in here. Somebody just asked, have you guys seen Cobra Kai? I know I
I
have.
absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, no,
It
I
is
think
so
yeah,
much fun.
no, and it was really interesting. So when you watch Cobra Kai, one of the cool things about it is Cobra Kai, so you have Miyagi Do karate, which is Bushiru karate technically, and Cobra Kai is actually a mixture of Tang Soo Do and World Taekwondo. If you actually watch it, because when you would know,
It's,
because what if you watch the last season of Cobra Kai, what's the form that they're always doing? Did you notice?
no, I did not notice.
Choreo. They're
I did
always
not.
doing, yeah, they're always doing choreo. When you watch them doing their kata or pumse, they're always doing choreo in Cobra Kai. And if you go back to Karate Kid Part 3, they actually have the old version of choreo in there.
Now, see,
So
I did not know that. I knew there were Tang Sudo. I didn't realize they were doing Taekwondo too.
yeah, there was because the guy that choreographed it was Pat Johnson, which who recently passed away. What, not even a year ago now, I guess. But yeah. So to answer that person's question, yes, we both have seen Cobra Kai. Okay, here's another. I'm gonna answer this question here. What's the next one here? We have. Oh yeah, this is in the comments about the show. So yeah. So now when you said about you do crazy things in your early career of creative writing. What were some of the things that you did that if any of the future writers are watching this, what are the things that you would that you did that you would recommend not doing?
I did a lot with sharp serrated knives, like kicking through them. Two reasons why. One is it's very, very dangerous. I would go through rings of knives. Um, Secondly, it doesn't give a big stage presence if it's dangerous. It's not a great idea because you really could get hurt. Dangerous, stupid is what I'm saying. Not dangerous like hitting a thing of concrete, which is the sport, but kicking through a bunch of serrated knives really doesn't show, in my opinion, enough common sense to the public, and I feel that actually hurt my scores as a breaker, and legitimately that it didn't show good judgment, and that would be one thing I would tell younger breakers not to do. Along with when you're doing creative, make sure it's big and seeable. I would do things like with small bricks and stuff, which wasn't as dangerous, but did not transfer well to a big stage. But the big thing is nothing that is dangerous, ridiculous should occur. Bed of nails is calculated. It's a lot of sense to it. There's logic to it. But using serrated knives is never a good idea. Got a funny story with the serrated knives if you'd like to hear it though.
Oh yeah, I would love to hear it for sure. That's the whole concept.
One time I was
Sorry.
walking by and just nicked my toe and just bled like crazy. But so what I did is between seasons I would wrap my stuff, my props up. One year I wrapped up my ring of knives and I would always punch or kick through it very precisely. Later I would dive through it in splits. I mean, some really ridiculous things. But I wrapped it one year. My daughter's cat decides to run through it It skinned itself. Um, the cat was fine. It was living. It cost me $600 to have the cat put back together. The cat lived another 10 years, but I would tell you strongly, those type of props will cost you money one way or the other. And that cost me $600 to put my cat back together. That year, I dismantled my rings of knives. So just kind of a fun thing. Don't have pets and don't have serrated knives as a prop in your garage.
It's always funny because the cat did survive, but yeah, it's
Yep.
always a weird thing, right? So,
Yep.
but again, we've seen breakers. We won't mention names, but we've seen some breakers do some pretty stupid things. Even within the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen some very questionable things.
Yeah. The more I think about it, another suggestion, if you're going to do ice, make sure your ice is big ice. I've done smaller slabs, like a foot long. It once again doesn't translate always well to the big stage, and the really long scallops don't always transfer well. So the big thing is try to use the most standard materials possible when you're doing creative, along with the bats and things like that. One of the best places to buy bats is a used sports store. The bats can be much harder if they get wet, so be very mindful not to buy a bat that somebody left out in the rain for a year or two. So just something to think about. Used bats are great. They're not they're not worn out, but sometimes they are harder if they've been in a damp environment as opposed to brand new.
Well, that's funny because you mentioned baseball bats. So I know the last time I was down there back in October. I did those two baseball bats. Right, one was the elbow, and one was the top of the foot. And I remember you saying to me like, "Well, that was a hard break." I'm like, "No, it wasn't." 'Cause I wasn't sure. You're like, "No, that was a hard break." I'm like, "No, that was not a hard break." You're like, "No, for you it wasn't hard. That was a hard break. We're arguing about it." You go, "No, that was short. It was hard." So yeah, so if anybody's like gonna choose that, make sure they're like the average like that, like not the shorter ones, because they can be harder if you're not used to or haven't developed the power yet. But then at the same time, you and I have both seen where breakers will also do longer than normal bats, right? 2 to 3 inches longer, and to me, the judges can see that. They can tell when you get like a super long back, and it makes it easier.
Yeah, the biggest thing I like to buy is I like to buy the stuff directly out of the store. Um, so you can even prove with the receipt. I like anything that's wooden. Um, that's a legitimate bat. You go to the sports store and you buy it. Same thing with your materials, Home Depot. I really like to get the stuff right off the line. And that way when you hit it, there's no question. I try never to go to like a unique place to get anything. I
Well,
always try to get it from a good source.
well, no, I can vouch for that. 'Cause every time I come down to compete, literally like on Thursday, you and I are going to Home Depot and picking up the material like right then and
Can
there, and
can you
end up
turn the
going.
mic up just a little? I don't hear you real well.
Oh, that better?
A little more, please.
It could be the connection. How's that?
Okay.
There you go. So, like I was saying, like whatever, like I can vouch for that. 'Cause every time I come down to compete, you and I are always going to Home Depot and picking up my material. Then we end up going to a sports store and just picking those bats right off the shelf. And most of the time, they're standard Louisville Sluggers or a rolling bat. So they're like, even the brand name is very well known. They're not like the no name brand names that most likely are going to be a little bit easier. So,
Another thing with bats, also I've seen, like, if you've seen some of the like homemade bats, um, like people will make bats or mass produce like a odd bat.
yeah.
Those actually can be really dangerous to break. You can really hurt yourself because they're using the wrong wood,
Mhm.
in the sense of where it's literally like 3 times thicker than a real bat. So be mindful if you're thinking on doing a budget bat. You really want to make sure to do a real bat because they're like measured for how much force it can take, which is a lot of force. But some of the homemade ones don't wouldn't even hit well. And when I say homemade, I'm talking a small company that does bat slugs. Plus, it
Mhm.
doesn't have the legitimacy of a name. It's always best to go with a real bat company. I've seen one time there was like 20 or 30 slugs at a thrift store. They were finished, overly thick, and some really weird wood, and we decided not to even touch them because you can potentially get hurt on the wrong materials. Just it's real important to be mindful that the cheap materials can be really dangerous materials.
Well, yeah, I'll vote for that because I bought these they were called like Cobourg Indian bats from up here to bring down to Florida, and those things were hard. I mean, they were like $20 bats. I'm like, okay, they're gonna be easy to break or easier, and these things were hard. I mean, I ended up having to kick them twice, and they only broke part way through. Like those things were hard, and if I wasn't conditioned properly, you're gonna break your shin or break your foot, and we don't need that. Um, all right, so now we've actually given some pretty good tips to future breakers on that. Now, you also are a school owner, so you run Breakwondo Martial Arts in you said
Yes, sir.
Longwood Beach, and I believe you're at what the third? Well, you're at your third commercial location now.
I'm sorry. One more time.
Yeah. So no. So you're the owner of Breakwondo now. You're in your what? Your third location now.
We're in our well, my first location was my driveway for
I know that.
probably close to a decade. Then we were in a plaza that was really nice, but now we're in more of a warehouse off the road place. It's even nicer. So it's our third location. It's our nicest looking location. The floor space is a little smaller, but it's a really nice spot. Has locker rooms, a large dojang and a small dojang, locker rooms, office, and storage. So it's a more useful location.
Yeah. No. So I was last time I was down there. You showed me the location before you moved there. I
It's
think
it's
it's pretty.
really nice. The
I
last location was very good, and they treated us well. But we wanted something that was just a little more posh, I guess. And was just a little. The plaza was like 50 years old, and a lot of the stuff was just starting to fall apart. And this was a better deal with rent and lease as well.
Oh, for sure. I do find, yeah. No, I do find it is important to have a good like a good uh pod or like a good good clean martial arts school. There's too many. At least I've been around enough. I've seen a lot of schools that you know like they don't take care of the place. Like you gotta take care of the place. Like it has to look nice. When people come off the street into your school, it has to. Like we're professional martial arts school or academy. You have to be professional. Oh, so I
Yeah, the
know. So
professionalism element was good, but there were certain things with the plaza, like we were actually next to a grocery store next to the kitchen, and certain times of the day, the whole place would smell like soup. Soup's great, but not when you have a martial arts school. Um, we had a lot of traffic. Um, people would park in front, drop off for the grocery store, and I feel that wasn't the professionalism we liked. What we have an after school program. We would have to bring the kids, just like one just across the street, no big deal. But you want everything for children as perfect as possible, and we would drop them off in front of the location to go in. But if we had to walk them, you know, we didn't like to clog up traffic. Now where we're at, the parking is like for 3 stores, and we just park right in front. Our kids get right off, and it's just a very, very smooth transition from the kids to the van.
yeah, so I was gonna bring that up so that so um Yeah, so a large part of your school is your after school taekwondo program, right? Like that's
Yeah.
your main business model.
Our main thing is our after school. We have a nice little traditional program, a nice little adult program. What I've heard, and I don't know how true it is, when you end up really locking in on one, that ends up being your strongest program. And
Mhm.
I have an elementary, and I have an educational background. I retired from the school system. And I have my degrees in education. So also parents really trust the degrees in education and the educational background for an after school program. So we really use it to benefit our school and benefit our kids.
And that is so in case anybody is listening in Florida or goes down there. So your school is Breakwondo martial arts. So what's the idea or what was the inspiration for the word Breakwondo?
Well, because we were doing competitive breaking so much, I had like 5 or 6 people at our school doing the ISK breaking. We were looking for a name, and my oldest son Nick says, "How about Breakwondo?" And everyone agreed on it, and it kind of stuck. Now we're known by it, and something like Zambri's martial arts is really nice, but it really sounds more like a restaurant. Matter of fact, there's a Canadian restaurant, Italian restaurant called Zambri's. So naming it Zambri's martial arts, I didn't feel was good. Coming up with a motivational name wasn't my thing. So Breakwondo stuck, and everyone kind of likes it. So looks like we're going to leave it that way.
Yeah, it's definitely unique. I know because you hear like a lot of the Koreans, like you hear a lot of Tiger Kim, Young Chung, a lot of Kims, right? The Koreans have
Right.
like that's universal for the Korean Taekwondo, and then you have a lot of places like myself that we just name our school after the town we're in. So like I'm Cobourg Taekwondo, so everybody's looking for martial art in Cobourg, you're gonna find that. Then there's a lot of bad names out there too, or names that are just a little full of themselves. But so Breakwondo, like you said, you started, and so I remember when I first started staying at your place way back when instead of staying at the hotel, um, yeah, you were teaching in your driveway with your team. Now, what made you want to transition from going from your driveway into a commercial unit?
Well, to transition from my driveway to commercial was something I wanted to do. When my wife and I first started dating, one of our goals was to have a Taekwondo school. I was making decent money as an assistant principal, so I was able to basically bankroll the beginning of like 1,000 square feet without it really hurting us financially. I had some really good adult students that chipped in towards the original down payment, for the bay, and from there we started off a small program. Then within a year and a half, we started our after school program. I decided I wanted to retire before I was too old to teach, so I retired from Orange County Public Schools at 25 and a half years to run the Dojang full time. So teaching in the driveway was something that I didn't want to do forever. And I felt having a building was just a wiser way to do it.
Mhm. So sounds good that you already have your student base. So versus a lot of people trying to just open up a school with no students, which is really risky. I got lucky. I bought my school from my instructor, original instructor, so that was an easy transition. Now going from that, now you are the American or the founder of the American Breaking Competitive Taekwondo Federation. Well, now, what was the whole genesis behind that?
The genesis behind that was a bunch of us had left, had been at other organizations, and we wanted to start an organization that was open to people who were taekwondo, um, who wanted a certification other than Kukiwon. So nothing, Kukiwan's amazing, but we also wanted a federation that we could start bringing in other schools. I would say we have over 10 schools in the federation now. The big thing we wanted was to have a federation that was where you could call and talk to somebody directly and decide if you wanted to join. We don't have a unified curriculum. What's unified is we all teach great taekwondo or good taekwondo. We practice good business, and we test on the WTF forms like Kukiwan. Another thing we're real excited about is we do have a certification partnership with Korean Mudokwan, KTMA, which is amazing. So when people join our federation, we have people who are a great resource to get Kukiwan. We have a resource for Korea Mudokwan, and then we have our ABCTF federation certification. So there's 3 different ways people can choose to certify, because Kukiwan's outstanding, Korean Mudokwan's outstanding, and then ABCTF is outstanding. We have a lot of our instructors who have won world titles or world records. So we're very, very proud to have some amazing martial artists like yourself as part of the federation.
Yeah, no, I think that's extremely important. I know sometimes in martial art in general, people get so wrapped up in just one federation or the politics of it, and they like don't mingle, and then like, they're so stuck on, oh, we're the best because we're the Suki one,
Well,
or
one thing really cool is we don't care. One of our, it's kind of a southern term, it's you're grown with and there's a few other words that follow, that you're a grown man and you know what you're doing, and you can join as many federations or organizations as you wish. You're an amazing school instructor. If you want to join 2 other organizations, you know what you're doing. So we're non-exclusive, and that's very important for us. We don't want you to feel limited. We want you to feel that you have wings to do what you feel is best for your school and your students.
oh, and I agree. I know like you and I have both had experience with other federations that were very they didn't want us to mingle too much, but it is what it is. So okay, so now moving on to that. So you and I have done work with ISKA, we've done stuff with the USBA, WBA, and now we're working with Mike Reeves in the Cobourg Breaking Federation in
Yeah,
conjunction.
that has taken off really well. You're our Canadian director, and there's 4 of us down here that run it. Me, Mike Reeves, Donald Kaiser, and Alex Reyes, who runs Point Fighter. So we have a real good infrastructure in the States, and we have you in Canada. So it's growing pretty nicely. And we have some people who are amazing in Europe helping us as well.
So like I said, this is like our third ranking federation or organization that we
Right.
sell with. So what's the difference? What if somebody was thinking like ISKA, Kokoro, or USDA? Like what do you feel set each one apart? That maybe
Well,
you know.
Kokoru's excellent. I'm going to tell you, ISK started it. It's amazing. USBA, WBA's excellent. They're more in the Northeast. We're more in the Southeast. What I think Kokoru offers is I feel it offers a slightly different menu than the others, but stuff that's supportive. Um, I think what it does is it gives more opportunities for breakers. And under the leadership of Mike Reeves, who started the sport, I think he truly understands the core of the sport. Alex Reyes understands how to really bring it out to people. Donald Kaiser's a reigning world champion right now, and you have a great knowledge about the sport and how to administrate effectively that really makes in a way that makes people successful. So we have a really strong group of people that I feel can lead it. So the other organizations are amazing, but I like where Kokoru is going right now. It's opening more doors in the sport. And to me, the more good organizations we have, the better it is for the athletes. Because I'm at the end of my competing, but we have so many great people coming up, including three of my personal kids and my grandkids. I want to see the future of breaking go much more mainstream. And I think if the three organizations work it together, I think we can all do a tremendous job.
Yeah, that's my thought too. Is like we don't need to be separate, even though we are separate, but to have the different ones and we can work together and piggyback off each other. And there's nothing wrong with competitors competing in all three organizations because that just legitifies all three organizations that competitors want to compete in all three, and that will help great offense. And you got like ISKA is mainly Florida, the Cobourg is mainly the South, the USDA is mainly like Northeast, so like Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts. So it's like I'm gonna teach out with like professional wrestling. Back in the territory days of pro wrestling, you had different territories, but they were all like world federations. Same thing with breaking. We all have our own territory, but we're all world level breaking federation, and there's nothing wrong with us.
Exactly. See,
Yeah,
um, I think the world of Ralph Drew and the USBA and ISKA with Corey Schaefer is amazing. So I look at it as we have the better chance of getting more people into the sport because we have more events going on at the same time, and you're
mhm.
not limited to doing what I call small farm events with unregulated rules. You always have a an event that has a really strong infrastructure and really strong competitors if you choose to attend. And I think
And,
the three organizations make that happen.
and I agree. Like sometimes, the dates just don't line up with certain people. Like they can't make one event, so like maybe they can make another one. But also, like each federation has its own unique divisions as well. So like if you want certain event, you have to go to one. If you want other events, you gotta go to another one. So you can get more experience from different competitors. You also find like certain competitors. There is a certain competitors will only stick to certain federation, and that's fine as well. And so the ones that like you and I who kind of go around a little bit, we kind of get to see everybody. Like I know, you run what 3 or 4 tournaments a year yourself,
I'm sorry, I
right?
couldn't hear the
So
question.
oh, yeah, so I said you yourself run what 2 or 3 tournaments a year through the
I
APCCF.
run at least basically Cora runs the breaking for IMAF, um, Pan Am. Then it runs a couple of its own tournaments, and then I personally run a couple ABCTF tournaments a year.
Yeah, so like for instance, like I know my tournament coming up in May is co-sanctioned by the APCTF, so like our forms, weapons, sparring, that's all sanctioned through the APCTF, and then we have both APCTF and the Coral breaking divisions at my tournament. And that's the Southern Ontario Spring Martial Arts International coming up on May 25th, which you've have come. This will be your third one.
I will be there. Absolutely.
So you said yeah. So this will be your third one, and we've had competitors from Florida, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, Washington, Indiana, Michigan, Ontario, obviously, Ireland. So we've had like 8 or 9 states, 3 different countries represented. Now, what the beauty I think of your tournament and my tournament is we have divisions for beginners, we have divisions for people that are used to competing at the international level. So there's always something for everybody at one of our tournaments. You don't have to be a world champion to compete at
And
one of our
what's one
tournaments.
thing I love about the tournaments, like the breaking tournaments, like yours in particular, you have like Keith Fanning, one of the best in the world, Paul Hickey, one of the best in the world. You have Ken Goodrich. I believe Mike Thomas was there last time. You have so many amazing breakers at these tournaments, especially in Canada, because it's such a cool place to go up to Cobourg that all of us look forward to visiting and seeing each other. The breaking folks are just amazing. If I forgot some of the great people up there, I can't think of who I miss sometimes, but there's so many great breakers, especially at your school alone. You
Yeah,
know.
no, we've been blessed to have had, I think we've had like 26 world champions come through the school here. But
Something
we've been
crazy
lucky.
like that in a good way. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Team Wolverine, like when we were like when Team Wolverine was at its peak before the world kind of got shut down there for a couple of years. Yeah, we were really going at it. It was same with your team. It was like if you look at, I would say, the golden age of breaking, there was Team Wolverine, there was Team Breakwondo, there was Team Chip, Team Virgil, Team
Team
Avalanche,
Avalanche.
Team Avalanche, but even just before them, I'm talking just kind of before them, but yeah, them now. Like we
Oh,
have,
Team Bergamo, whatever Bergamo's team was too. It
yeah.
might have been Team Bergamo.
Mhm. Like I know, like back in 2007, that was it was Team Virgil and Team Chip that were the two teams that really stuck out the most when I first started with the breaking.
Hmm.
And then there was then you add Team Wolverine and Team Breakwondo. We were like the top four competition teams there for a while. Now you get all these other schools coming in like Team Avalanche and a few other ones I can't say the top of my head that have come in and kind of have replaced a lot of us per se, or at least learned from us. Which is kind of cool to see the next generation of breakers coming in. And
Yeah, it's fun to watch, and that's what's nice about the breaking. You know, if somebody breaks more than you can't help but be happy for them.
yeah,
It's one of in my opinion, a very unpolitical sport.
well, that's another thing I want to point out. That like it's actually creative breaking. Even though you and I will compete against each other, we're holding for each other. We're
Hmm.
setting up for each other. We want, at the end of the day, we want the best breaker to win. So we make sure that we do our best to help each other. So we want
Yeah,
to
we
help.
give everyone the home court advantage when
Yeah,
they come to Florida at ISKA. We want everyone to have an equal chance to winning. Winning isn't any good if you have an unfair advantage. So we want everyone who does creative to have the best chance possible.
well, and that's the other thing. So people don't realize, like, when you come to one of our events, if you're doing especially power breaking, all the material is standardized material at all the events. You're breaking the same wood, the same concrete. You're buying it from the tournament so that every competitor has the exact same material. So, you know, well, it will vary a little bit, but in essence, it's not like somebody's bringing the material, whether and they could have doctored it or they could have bought the wrong material, made it harder on themselves. Like it's
Hmm.
pretty fair. Like second
We do our best. We really do.
power ranking is probably one of the most fair events in martial art if you really look at it because it's the
I
same
would
thing.
agree. And the consistency of the people that win shows the fairness too, because you have some athletes that are just amazing at power and they tend to win a lot, and it lets you know that there's a consistency element. It's not just chance.
Exactly, yes, yes. Like, but even though the material can vary a little bit, but the fact
Hmm.
that if you and I are competing in Florida, that's Florida material. If you and I are
Yep.
competing here in Ontario, that's Ontario material, but we have the same material from the same supplier wherever that location is at that tournament. Like, 100% fair.
Yeah,
Like, trade,
I've always felt really good about that. And
yeah,
all the organizations do their best to make sure that all the materials are consistent and everybody has the best chance possible.
for sure. Yeah, no, that's definitely one of the things I love about the pricing aspect of it. All right, so now you're talking about, we talked about a little bit about the APCTF doing some kind of business conference. in June? You
Yes,
know, some
we
more
are
details?
planning when you're down in Florida, June 1st, we'll have our first ABCTF convention. It'll be small, but it'll be nice. Every school owner will present something they're doing special, and then we will end with some sort of banquet. It'll be small, and my goal is next year to have it in Cobourg. The
Okay.
following year, we would really
Oh,
like it to be in Canada, so
uh,
that way our people up north can join as well. But we're real excited about doing it the first time. We have so many talented, great martial arts school owners, great martial artists that we really feel that it'll be great to break bread together, share ideas, and increase the size of the organization little by little, bringing in more terrific schools.
well, that's thing that you and I discussed too. That like, some organizations are so interested in just growing fast, and maybe the quality control's not there. Where you and I want to have quality people, like we want to grow by actually meeting them and getting to know them first, and sharing ideas and make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page and that we're all like again quality instructors. We're not just letting random people come in because they want to pay us, and we really don't even accept a lot of money in that regard per se.
Yeah,
You know,
another thing we do that's kind of unique, membership is very inexpensive because that way, if it's inexpensive, you see, you pay for value. But see, another thing with it being an inexpensive membership is we have the ability to say to you, we don't need your money, we need your quality. And for
exactly,
us,
yeah.
for membership, I would much rather have membership lower and quality up. There's no incentive for us to keep you if you don't run a good school.
Oh, for sure, exactly. 'Cause at the end of the day, it is our it's the reputation of martial art as a whole, not just us
Yep.
individually, but like as a whole, we want the martial arts in general to keep growing. Cause like I mean, in the martial art industry, you always hear the um, if somebody offered you $1 million for your black belt, but you had to forget everything that you ever learned and you've never had all the experiences that you had in the martial arts, would you take that $1 million? And most of us will say no, because what martial arts has given us is way more valuable.
Oh, absolutely. It's given me good manners. It's given me a lot of skills I wouldn't have otherwise. I credit martial arts and actually Grandmaster YK Kim with my entire educational career because I learned how to teach at his studios teaching white belt class. So those folks get all the credit.
For sure, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of great martial artists out there to learn. Um, Yeah, no, I think our hour is up. I don't want to keep you too much longer. 'Cause I know you have to go watch your. Is it Max or Alex that's doing water polo?
Alex is doing water polo. Alex, my oldest guy, he's in three sports in high school: wrestling, water polo, and swimming. And he's a third degree black belt. So I'm really trying to make sure he's before he runs the school, he goes through everything he wants sport
Mhm.
wise to make sure when he runs the school, which is his choice right now, that he has no regrets that he missed anything.
I will. I know. What, I will vouch for that. And yeah, once you kind of start running a school, you are pretty much glued to that school. But I mean, it's so rewarding to be running a
Well,
martial arts
well, with
school.
him, he's on the engineering track, and he sat with my wife one day and myself and said, "Look, I don't want to be an engineer. I want to run the school. I'll go to college. I'll get my degree, but my passion is to run our school." So you have a kid with an engineering mind who kicks like a mule and teaches terrific, offering to run your school. You're going to do everything you can to have him well rounded, so he has no regrets when he gets to school.
For sure, and then I almost imagine that your younger son Max will probably help out, most likely at some point.
Well, Max has the same offer. Max, Alex, and my grandson. My older kids, have their lives already, but Max, Alex, and my grandson Jaden all have dibs to have the school and work out something as I get older.
So you'll just end up being the grandmaster of the school, but they'll end up being running it. Yes, yeah.
Yep, exactly. Just so long as it makes them happy and they do a good job at it.
Oh, and the fact that they are contributing and adding value to so many people's lives, that to me that's inspirational in itself.
It,
Yeah,
it really does. And you meet terrific, high quality people too.
for sure. So that is basically that 1 hour we've been on for now. So again, I'm gonna be respectful of your time. Thank you for being the first guest of the Martial Arts Mastery podcast.
Thank you. It was an absolute honor, my friend. And I look forward to May. I can't wait to visit.
Me too. All right,
Bye,
signing
sir.
off. Yeah, take care.
Thank you.